Georgia Laura Dragons. So we're getting two of the painful ones out very early on in our
Yeah,
previews, which we're actually keen to get done. But I
it's fair.
think I have thought about it saying there is one, maybe two players that I do want to talk about a little bit in this, but for the rest of it, pretty much nothing. Starter hookers, Jacob
Mhm.
Little for mine, not an option at all. Averaged 44 last year, and I don't see that really improving at all this year
Uh,
either.
I do.
Oh, hang on.
Here we go. I do. I think his output gets higher. I think when it comes to minutes in general, I just think he can't not get a starting. I can't. I just don't know how he doesn't play close to 80. And those games weren't even close to a full 80 game. You know what I mean?
Is he a
You'd think,
sneaky draft option
yeah,
if you get
yeah,
stuck?
definitely.
Because he won't be picked up.
No, not early days anyway.
And if you don't get Harry Grant, you're not really going out of your way to get anyone else really in hooker, are you? Like you'll just get whatever you end up with.
Uh, yes and
Oh,
no.
you like Reece Robson. We've been pretty big on him, but yeah,
Yeah, there's a
Little. I
few
don't
that
think
you
you'd be
drop
you'd be
off the
bad.
elite, but it's like you've got the top and then you've got this mid tier. There's a few in there, and then it falls off a cliff. It's just
Yeah,
dire straits after those guys. And I feel like you're probably going to get a good year out of Little. Like when he was at the Tigers, he didn't do too bad in those 80-minute roles. He was quite good. Um, so that potential is there for him. I think if he does get an 80-minute role every week, then there's nothing saying that he can't average 50 plus points, because they tackle enough. They need to. So
yeah.
he doesn't do much else than that. But
Well,
I'm just
talking
having
about
a
tackling.
yeah.
Oh wait, you're going to bring up something else with Little?
I was just going to have a look. He didn't play a single game last year, 80 minutes. Not a single game. Majority of his games, he played a couple of 70s. Majority were 50. If not, they were off the bench in the beginning. At the end of the season, 20 minutes to 50 minutes. So if he does get a position where he is going to look like playing 80 minutes or close to 70 minutes, um, not bad. Honestly, not bad.
Big.
It's not fun. It's not someone you want to get into, but if he goes down in price into the 300s and you're like, oh, you know what? For some reason, Phoenix Crossland's doing all the work and Brayley's gone, but Little's on the way up. I don't know if it's worth burning a trade on, but um, it's still not what you want to be doing. It's not what you want to be doing for a draft, for a head-to-head potentially. Draft more often than not in any other position, I think, because again, they do fall off quite quickly. And they don't have anyone to cover him. Is Moses Mbye gone now? I don't think. I think he was one of
Yeah,
the
he's
other guys
gone.
he's gone. So he was one of those dudes that was
He's
taking
gone.
minutes off Little, and you're thinking, what's he doing? Just put Little there. Like he's the hooker you signed to play there. So why are you giving it to Mbye? But now I just don't see anyone taking anything off him. So if you're going to see a year out of Little, this should be by right his best year at the Dragons anyway.
I can't buy into it, but I respect what you're saying, and
Oh,
I'll
I'm not
look
saying
into that.
forget your Grants and forget your Marshall Kings. Get on Little. Do not
Yeah,
do that. But just expect him to
you
be
make a
better this
valid
year.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about tackling, I was trying to segue there into the front row forward, and one player that I do want to talk about that does tempt me, Jack DeBellin.
Mm,
All only because I know for a fact in this Dragon side, if he's going to be playing 80 minutes regularly, which I don't know if he will or not, like that's not a given yet. If he does play the 13 role, then perfect. He'll be doing a shitload of tackling.
oh,
He'll be getting through a
shitloads.
shitload of work. He will be doing a mountain of base. And I know he's not going to get me ceiling, but he might, as I said earlier, like he might be one of those forwards that just gets me that 55 to 60 week in, week out, and I'm happy with it. Like, okay, at least I
Mm,
know for sure what I'm going to get out of him. And he's only going to cost at the moment 582K. There is, as you said, there is probably better players a bit further higher up where you can get a potential higher ceiling, but there's not no stress involved. Like you literally just be
yeah.
putting him in, going, all right, 55, 60, thank you. But that revolves around minutes. If it goes to like a 65, 60-minute roll and Flanagan doesn't want to burn him out, no chance. No chance. Even though he'll get through a bit of work, he'll need that extra 20 minutes in my eyes to really get the points that I need to make him relevant. But I think it's one to watch early on and just listen to some press conferences and stuff and see what the plan is around him because he might be a sneaky pod.
Yeah, I think he might be too. I like him at that price. I do. I had him last year as well, and I wrote him out for the to the end of the season from maybe midway. So I saw the ups and the downs on him, and he had in the middle of the year, man, he was killing it. He was killing it. Um, a lot of people jumped on him, and I'm pretty sure it was around the same time that Corey Horsburgh was doing the same sort of numbers too. So players that traditionally you're not going to start with or really look at too often, but he played a lot of 80-minute games, man. I don't see that changing realistically with the team that they've got around him. I think he does what he does. I think he does where he's priced at. His ceiling's actually pretty high. Um, and he's not afraid of the try line really. It doesn't happen often, but you do see him occasionally if he gets close, like I'm gonna go. So um, yeah, at 580, like he's a dual. He's dual position. No rep footy to worry about. He does not play in Origin anymore. So um, I don't hate it. I really don't. I think if you were to even just run with him as your like premium second row pick, I don't hate it
Yep.
because
Yep.
that's just off those top
And
600
he's
plus
dual.
guys, and he's dual,
He's
and
got
you've
the
got
dual
that
as
option
well.
to move with. Um, I actually think it's a pretty good pick, to be fair. I just where you put him and
Thanks, mate.
where you've got that around. So because the upside's definitely there for him, and I think he might even go up really because he did
Yep.
go up from that. He was definitely higher than that last year. So obviously, he came down towards the end, but in the middle, man, he was just freaking going nuts. So, yeah, Jack DeBellin, obviously, what a name as well.
Blake Laurie and the Molo brothers don't interest me one bit.
Nah,
Yuck, in other words, for a super coach. Harme Selly's starting to get a bit of talk around him and
mm,
again, potentially his role coming over back home from South Sydney, 425K. He obviously that's with I don't think he was getting I think he was getting decent minutes at South, but I think he'll get more minutes here at the Dragons because again, I look at their forward pack and it's pretty much like we'll do when we talk about the Dogs. There's not much going on. There's not much competition for his spot. If he's
yeah,
not in the top, probably two forwards in that pack, then I'll give it away. So he'll definitely get some minutes. It'll just be about seeing what his work rate's like because I don't know if he's used to those minutes. So maybe he'll get fatigued easily. I'm not too sure, but
mm,
he could be an option. Like it is
yeah,
cheap.
it's cheap enough. It's there's a lot of talk about Harmy Selly for 425. You know who I'm taking for 425 in the front rows, man. Been a big advocate for him, and I'm starting to see his face pop up everywhere. But it's Totola, So um,
You started the movement. I honestly will
oh
say right now, you don't want to give yourself credit, but ever since it was last week, the team,
yeah,
we reviewed
yeah,
our
yeah,
teams, and as you said, literally have seen it that day, like the day after I uploaded it, and straight away there was just Toller
yeah.
everywhere.
Totola everywhere. I don't know. The good thing that the Dragons have going for them is their draw to start is quite, I wouldn't say easy because it is the Dragons, but
Yes,
it's easier than
I
most.
did forget to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, the draw is quite good for them.
I'll run through it
Whether
quickly
on,
because I did do it, and I did forget to
yeah,
do it for the Tigers as well, so I'll quickly say it for the Tigers. So, obviously, they got the bye, the Tigers, then they go the Raiders, the Sharks, the Eels, and the Dolphins, so and, yeah, for the Tigers, that's pretty hard. The Dragons have Titans, the Dolphins, Cowboys, Manly, and the Knights, so it's not too bad, like, they don't have any of the top 4 teams in it, they've got some teams there where they're on the bounce back, like the Cowboys and Manly. We're still not a bit
mm,
unsure of what we're going to see from, especially those. For mine, those two sides are the biggest question mark sides coming into 2024. The Knights, I feel like, will be pretty much where they were last year. They'll be that sort of 5 to 8 team, and they'll just on their day they'll put points on. Um, you're right. Like it's not the worst draw out there, and for players like we're talking about Harmaselli and DeBellin, they'll get through their work with those teams. Like they'll have
yeah,
to because they'll be probably in with the chance to maybe steal the 2 competition points. Because I think the Dragons, for a lot of people out there, have them as their wooden spooners, so they're not anticipating too much, especially after what's happened the last week with the injuries. Um, so you'd expect, especially those first 5 games and maybe more, DeBellin and Sele will be getting through quite a bit of work, especially if the 2 competition points are there for the taking.
mm. I would think so. Um, Look, the Dragons always start quite well, considering their late season form compared to how they kick off with. But like the draw's not the worst. Obviously, it does get pretty rough towards the back end of the season, but it's miles away to even look at it. Um,
Yeah.
they could start quite hot with the teams they've got there. Like starting off against the Titans isn't a bad thing, especially if you're going into a brand new Titans team with potentially no David Fafita, and things are shuffling. So it's not the worst. And then you got the Dolphins. They're both away games for them too. So it just depends, man. They're not the greatest team, but it's not the hardest draw. So it could be okay for them. I still reckon the forwards do what they're expected to with the points that they're gonna make. But yeah, I suppose you can just watch what happens with them. A lot of
Yeah.
people going harmy Sally
One
for the price.
guy.
He's decent, but yeah.
Yeah. One guy I did like just because of the cheapy nature, base price 204K. Viliami for Fita. We've heard I've
Mm,
spoken about him before. I'm not going to bore anyone too much with him. We've heard about him now for I feel like 2 to 3 years. Always been around that sort of potentially getting a bench role. Last year didn't play any matches, it says, so didn't get any uh, shot there. But I feel like Flanagan's the type of coach that would give this sort of player a go. Like he does have some potential there. So, and as we've said, the forward pack isn't much to write home about. Like I don't feel like they're worthy of keeping one of these like young guys who could come through and learn off this year, keeping him away anymore. And I think Flanagan will be coming in open minded and let these guys potentially have a run. So if he can steal that 17th spot on the bench and get a 15-minute stint or something, then purely because of the dual factor, I don't mind him as my
mm,
real cheap option. It's hard, but I'd probably go him above Gaia if he does get named because of that
yeah.
dual reason.
Yeah, I've got him in over Gaia in my team at the moment, just because the duel, because of the potential chance that he gets more of a run than Gaia does in that better team. Like no one's gonna drop out of the Panthers team for poor form, or disciplinary issues or any of that, but they might at the Dragons. So that's kind of where they're
Another
gonna get a look.
barbecue.
But the barbecue, Jesus Christ! I remember when all that went down. I was right around the corner. It was nuts. So yeah, classic, man. Classic Paul Vaughan, but
um,
that's a different story. So, um, I suppose we can just take over to the second row forwards. There's a lot
yeah,
there. There's a lot there. A
I
lot
just
more than I was
realized that.
thinking there was. Um, Obviously DeBellin's listed. Jaden Sewer, he's a lock in on that side, and I suppose it's who's on the other end. Is it Jack Bird?
I think
You
I've
reckon?
heard. No, I've actually heard, and this is
Couch
a shout to the guru this week. I actually heard, and it was on their pictures. Tom Eisenhuth has been pictured on the edge, and
Oh,
could
okay.
be a little like obviously Eisenhuth is never one of those players who will
Hmm.
get a big for points, but if he does start and with the options here, there's not like it looks like there's a lot when you look at the Supercoach app because there's so many, but there's really nothing like
But they're
there's
not.
not
Yeah,
much.
they're no
It's
one's
not really
relevant.
players of note, and I think Jack Bird will get a shot probably in the centers. I'm hearing. It just depends on, and then we'll talk about this player down the track. So I don't want to say too much, but it depends on Lomax, what happens there.
Mm,
Bird could go to center. And then if Eisenhuth does get a start, and he'd be an 80-minute play. He's one of those guys, I reckon he'd just keep going. He'd have a motor. He'd be fit as. He'd be one of those undercover fit guys. And just,
probably.
I think Flanagan likes those style of players as well. He knows what they'll do. They won't miss many tackles. They'll just get it, roll up their sleeves early on. I think Flanagan would love that. So
Yeah. I
I
just
personally, I'm not going to go there, but
yeah, I
yeah,
still wouldn't go there anyway. If it looks like he's an 80-minute second rower, man, at 350, it's like, do you need to? I feel like you might have to consider it. That's the thing. I made
don't
that same
force me.
comparison last year with Bryce Cartwright. I thought, oh, well, he's cheap. He plays 80 minutes now for a stint. And look how that ended up. Not to say that Tom Eisenhuth is going to average 70 points, but Daniel Russell didn't do a bad job for that brief, period at the end of last season. Um,
All
but again, I
82 though.
suppose, yeah,
The
it's
worry.
too much. It's way
I
too
don't
much.
like
He's
that.
dearer than all of those mid-tier second
Yeah.
rowers that everyone is looking at
Nearer
for
than
so
Sean
much.
Lane.
Yeah. He's 440.
Jesus.
Get him at a
Oh,
bargain.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
don't like I don't
I
like
don't I
anyone
don't
there.
like any of them really. Yeah, I do like Jack Bird because of the duel, and I think he's always actually been quite relevant for fantasy games in general, whether it's NRL
He just can't
fantasy
stay on
or
the field.
Supercoach. Yeah, that's his
Head
problem.
in. Every
He
time I
does like
think about, "Oh, yeah, he's an option," he's off. He's out. He's out for a few weeks.
yeah, he does string together a consistent game or two here and there, but it's not enough, and it's definitely not worth getting him in for that price and having to trade him out a few weeks later. He played 14 games last year. It's not enough. You want 20 plus minimum.
Let's talk
Yeah,
halves.
halves. What halves? Half.
We look in the
What?
halfback position, there's only one name, it's Ben Hunt.
There's
There's not even a
one. It's
reserve there
just
for
one.
Supercoach. So,
No.
Volkman obviously not there at the club anymore. He was there for the quickest signing, I think, in rugby league history. He was there for all of a day. And for that day, I had him in my team, so I've got to get him out. Still haven't done that.
Yeah.
5.99. If there's ever a time where, like you're saying early on, the Dragons have a hope. If Ben, like everything's going to go through Ben Hunt, is there anything there to say Ben Hunt is Supercoach relevant? Because we all like if Dragons are to score points, it has to be through Ben Hunt. There is no other way.
It's gonna be through Hunt, but like no.
What points is it?
No. Just don't. It's just even if there are points there to be made, like we spoke about these giant sized balls before, I just don't think it's worth it. Um,
Yeah.
he's never
He can't
really
even
been
get you
that
up to anyone
relevant.
because you'll have to make like 400K to get you up to someone decent, or
Well, that's the
300K to
thing.
get
He's
you up to
miles
someone
off anyone
decent.
that's
So
good, but
yeah,
the last from 2019 to now, he averaged 60, 51, 67, 56, 59. So he's priced at his average. There's no upside. There is only downside and heartbreak with Ben Hunt, I think. He doesn't want to be there. I don't even know why he's still there. Just let him go.
um,
But what
let's
do you
talk about
do?
like
Like just
5'8".
hey,
5'8".
yeah,
5'8",
5'8".
looks even better.
5'8" looks even better. I suppose you got one bloke that's been what shouldn't
Honestly,
be in the app, and the other one that's Kyle
if
Flanagan. So
you're if you're a Dragons fan, you got to be doing our reaction. You just simply have to get to the point where you laugh, because if you're not laughing, you're crying your eyes out every day
yeah,
already, and it's January of the footy season because it doesn't look good.
no,
Kyle
it
Flanagan
doesn't.
was signed as a hooker. He'd be playing 5'8" now. They got no one else. Paul Turner is not a 5'8", so just don't even worry about
Did
putting him
they
in
sign
there.
Flanagan as a hooker?
Originally, to have that 14 role, so
Yeah,
they wanted him
wow,
to eat into to share it with Little.
Jesus.
Now, with everything that's happened, it's basically forced their hand to play him back in the halves.
Yeah, well, they don't really have a choice. Otherwise, they're not going to have anyone.
In theory, I
That's
think Ben Hunt would be is a pretty good player to pair him up with. I think if there's anyone in the competition to pair Kyle Flanagan up, Hunt would probably be in the top 3 of those players just to help him and
yeah,
continue, I guess, his growth, because I feel like he's
for
gone back so far confidence-wise.
oh, big time.
But he's
And
not like I've heard people say Flanagan now is an option because he's a certainty, but again, he just won't get any points. Like everything will be through Hunt. Like I don't see him as the Volkman. I just jumping on
mm,
now to Kyle Flanagan. I'm not. I can't do it. Don't tell
yeah,
me. Don't tell me.
look, man, he's 300K. There's so much upside. Like you got to think, is he going to score more than 30 points a game, Flanagan?
No.
Probably. You don't think?
Oh, I don't think so. No.
You don't
He's
think
just
so?
so short of confidence. Again, he's one of those players where I
Yeah, but he's
can't name him
playing.
before round one.
Yeah, but he's playing for his old man now. He's going to
Yeah,
be
there
at
could be some
ease. There's going to be
in
stability
the
now.
table
As
argument.
unstable as that club is, and as bad as they are, and you're looking at the team now and thinking, shit, this team's worse than the Tigers.
They are
These guys going bad.
eye opening.
It's shocking actually. I didn't realize how bad it was, but I still think for just potting along, would you rather Flanagan or Caesar?
Weeks.
Yeah,
I'm starting to go back on the weeks camp, even though I told you the other week I wasn't, and I was
yeah.
off
But
it.
see,
I'm sort of
it's
He
just
has
like
more.
picking
Weeks
between
has more
3 bags
upside.
of shit and being like, which bag of
Yeah.
shit smells not as shit compared to the other one? It's like, fucking hell. You're just running with whatever you're
Yeah.
left with. It's all just bottom dollar. So yeah,
I don't like this.
none of it's exciting, man. It's pretty sad to be fair, but I still feel like just with what they have at the moment, yeah, I don't hate 310. I really don't. Because like at the Roosters, he was pretty good. I suppose they dropped him because he was pretty bad, but for point scoring, fantasy wise, he was actually putting good numbers out. So that's what I mean. For point scoring, he was pretty good because he kicked too. That was the difference too. He was kicking. So take away those points because Lomax is not losing that T. Yeah, he might actually lose quite a lot of upside there. So it's not exciting. Might be 30, 40 points, but avoid.
You mentioned my man Lomax. I want to chat
Yeah,
about him. Let's
Zachy
go
boy.
over to center wing, and I'll say right now I don't want to talk about any other center wing because I keep looking through the list and nothing at all looks worthy of talking about that we haven't already spoken about. Like Jack Bird's obviously dual. We've spoken about him already.
Yep.
Eisenhuth we've already spoken about. Ravalawa, we know what we're going to get, so there's no real point to. I don't think anyone will really have Ravalawa.
No,
He's sort of lost what he used to
not for
be.
600K anyway.
Sully,
Jesus.
Sully's too in and out of games for my liking to be thought
No.
about at 480K. So Zach Lomax, if he lands the fullback spot, I think I'm on him. I think I'm going to
Yeah.
downgrade Val Holmes and get Lomax.
If Zach Lomax gets the fullback spot, I will probably find a way to go up from Kiraz, I would say, because
630K,
630 is pretty
him and
good.
Hunt together.
We're not going near Hunt, but I like
No,
Lomax at
I'm not saying
fullback.
Hunt. No, I'm just saying them working together on the field, like from an
Oh
NRL point
yeah.
of
No, I
view.
think Lomax just in general. I think Lomax at
Yeah,
fullback is bloody good. So you can see why they probably haven't done it yet because they don't really have that sort of depth to allow him to play in that position without losing so much in the centers.
they need Bird fit, and us super
Yeah,
coaches need Bird fit because if Bird's fit, that will put pressure on Flanagan to then say, obviously Sloan hasn't worked. Like I'm ready to put the red pen through Sloan's NRL career. If I'm being honest, I know it's a bit harsh, and you don't want to say that for the kids, but I think he should be a Super League sort of kind of player and go and
yeah,
tear that comp up. That's sort of his. I don't think he's ever going to make the NRL and be that level that was spoken about when he was a kid coming through. Lomax, for mine, can spark the Dragons into no
oh,
tomorrow. He can just
big
do
time.
stuff on this field. I know he's got some mistakes in him, but all the good players do, and they bounce back and they just don't let it deter him, and they go again. And he does that all the time. And if he can do that closer in the field and start targeting some of these tied forwards and stuff of oppositions, I think he's one of those players that you just make sure you fit your team from round one.
Yeah,
If he's fullback
I
at
think you're bang on,
630K.
really. Yeah, if he gets the fullback, that's the big thing. Like if he gets the fullback, you obviously know that he's going to kick and he's going to do this, but he's what that club needs, I think, at fullback. And they've tried to run that same mold for fullback for whatever reason with Matt Duffy and Sloan and Ramsey, these tiny little runners that can't defend, and it's like it's not working. You don't have
Yeah.
the team around them. You don't have someone like the Panthers where they can go, okay, Edwards, he's not a big guy, but he will do what he can do because he's got the guys around him to do it. Sloan doesn't, and you saw him last year too. And shit, it's just like, what else can the Dragons do in that position? Because
This.
they don't have anything left. Like they tried with Ramsey, they tried with Dufty, gone Super League. And you know what? I think Dufty actually is doing quite well, or did. I don't know what he's looking at, but I saw some things that he'd done in the Super League and thought, okay, he's found his level at least, or he's at least he's happy. So you're probably right about Sloan doing the same thing. I don't know, man. It's a position they need to do something with because nothing's worked so far, and I think
And
Lomax is
Lomax
the answer
averaged
for him.
62. He averaged 62 last year in a side that was doing nothing. I don't
Mm,
feel like for a lot of the year, the back half, like the last probably once Flanagan was announced or there was whispers of it, I feel like Lomax really started to stand up a bit in that side to make a point. Um, I
yeah,
the Dragons have to. Like, it's the year to do it because they're not expected to make the 8. They will not make the 8. Experiment.
no,
If I was Flanagan, I'd be pulling him into my office if he hasn't done so already, saying, "You know what, Lomax? Oh, Zach, you've got fullback this year. You got it for the whole year. Show me what you can do. If you do it well enough, I'm telling you now, you'll be the fullback at this club for the next 5 years, and you
Yeah.
can just build on it, and you can do what you want. I'll make centre happen and work around you. All good. Don't worry about it,
Mm.
and go from that because the other thing for the Dragons when they're building, they said it on the Chase Manu and blah blah. You're not going to get Manu. So think about your best players in your club at the moment. So you got Hunt, who's going to leave. We know that it's just about when he's going to leave.
Yep.
Lomax is your next best option, and he's the only other attacking thing you have. So if he's said to you, and it looks like to me how he started playing last year, he does want to play fullback. He wants the
Mm.
shot there. Just give him it.
Yeah.
Let him do it. He's
What
the
have you
only
got
other
to
guy who
lose?
can do anything.
Yeah. You got
And
nothing
for
to
super
lose.
coaches, do it, please.
Yeah, definitely.
It's
Do it
not
for
about
us.
us, but
If not for anyone else, do it for the super coaches who really needed it. So yeah, I think yeah, you just got to keep an eye on that space, man, because if it does look like it's going to happen, I'm probably going to make it happen in my team. Why
that's
not?
made me a bit happy, to be honest. And there's not much else to say about the Dragons. I don't even need to ask you because it's just good luck for 2024 and tread carefully when you pick them. But there is there is some tempting options there. So just keep an eye on some things over the next few weeks and trials as well. If we're watching trials and Lomax is there at fullback, do what you can.